Hey Time Slicers, welcome to Slice Squad Spills. I'm your host, Nikki Wildflower. I went from a basement apartment to a multiple seven-figure empire. Now I'm here to share how you can do it too. Step into our world where efficiency is a lifestyle and we are on the cutting edge, revolutionizing the beauty industry and beyond and maximizing your income. This isn't just a podcast. It's a space for breakthroughs, a community of innovators. Fasten your seatbelt. Your journey to maximum efficiency and prosperity starts right here. Your calendar is full. Your clients love you. Instagram thinks you're crushing. And your bank account is like, hey, queen, like we're probably not actually okay. This episode is for the ambitious women who are like really doing everything right and they're still stressing over money. Because I just run into that all the time.
Lot.
Yes. So we're going to talk about why fully booked is the most overrated flex on the planet and the simple math that you've very likely been avoiding. I'm going to walk you through a real stylist that I met with yesterday. So I open up my books for probably about 10 stylists per week outside of my consulting clients for coaching calls. And that gives me like the best possible idea of like what everyone's actually struggling with behind the chairs. I'm going to walk you through a real stylist that I met with yesterday who is the literal poster child for this. Booked out for weeks, salon owner, 4 kids, and needs a second job. And if you're listening to this, I'm not going to say your name.
But because, so like fully booked, working how many hours?
40 something, sometimes 50.
Wow. And just not able to like pay bills or get by.
Get by, yes. So here's the deal with this. This person came to me and was like, my biggest bottleneck in my business is that my renters' books are not full. And I'm like,
what does that have to do with?
Well, we're going to get into that. But if you're listening and you're like, okay, that's me and I'm tired of this not mathing, there is a link in the show notes to apply for Slice Lab. And that's where we fix this structurally, not just emotionally. So we fix your timing, your pricing, all of the things. We have limited spots left for the month. I think only 2, but you could apply. And if it's not this month, it could be next month. So make sure that you check out that link. Let's go. Somewhere along the way, I'm going to start by saying like women got sold this idea that a full calendar is what equals success in the service industries. Exhaustion means commitment. And especially those of you that have been doing this for a long time, like myself, I've been behind the chair for 23 years. When we started, that literally was like, we didn't really, like we had the internet, but not really.
The message was like, fill your books and like completely take every single client on. It doesn't matter who they are or what they're asking for.
Right.
Take them on, double book yourself, run yourself into the absolute ground and make just the right amount of money is basically what the old
because
message
anything more than that is greedy.
So
anyway, so you got to stay accessible, right? So being in demand is not the same thing as being well paid, but those of us who have been doing this for a while kind of equate being fully booked with success in general, right? Exhaustion equals commitment. And I even hear stylists that have been doing it as long as me, probably 3 times a week on calls. Like these newer stylists don't work like we did back in the day.
Yeah. And it's like, they're not supposed to. Can we please rewrite this script? Thanks.
We don't want them to do what we did. Okay. Like that's not nice. Why would you wish that on anybody? Fully booked is a feeling metric. It's almost like a vanity metric, right? Money is a math metric. So when those two don't align, you get like the high functioning, secretly panicking woman who looks successful on the outside to everyone else and is quietly doing side gigs to keep up with groceries and like be able to take their family on vacation.
Right.
If that stung, I need you to stick with me here.
Keep listening.
We're going to work through it. So yesterday I meet this stylist. She owns a salon, has renters, been doing hair for about as long as I have, genuinely loves it, loves clients, actually came on the call not thinking that her bottleneck was actually her own books. She came
thought
and
it was
said,
her renters. Like you said, my renters aren't full.
She said, my renters aren't full. So I think that's like my biggest thing. And I was like, well, what would make that your biggest thing? And she's like,
right.
Well, I just want the salon to be
have
busier.
A lot of people in it. Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, but do you actually think that that's the bottleneck in the business? I'm like, because they're not commission. Like
let's break this down a little bit. Her renters pay her rent every month regardless, right? That's what their commitment is.
Yeah.
And she's their landlord. So actually them being fully booked would not impact her revenue at all. Sure, it would be nice. It's a great idea and concept. I like that.
That's what I said. I'm like, it's a nice
goal.
Have,
yeah.
but that's not a bottleneck.
It's not actually like the needle mover in this moment for her. And to get her out of the bartending gig that she probably doesn't want to be doing anymore.
So she's booked a month out, has kids. On paper, that's like the dream, right? Career, business, full book, family. And yet when I shifted the conversation and said, okay, well, I don't think that's a bottleneck. What else are we avoiding here? What do you actually want to create for yourself? And we jumped into the numbers. That booked out was only equating about $5,000 a month.
Working 40 plus hours per week.
Yes. And then comes out, actually, I'm stressed. I feel like I shouldn't have to work this hard. So we look at the numbers. And last year between cash and cards, it was about 50K. Now, remember, this person is fully booked, has almost 2 decades of experience. So I ask her like, okay, if you are this booked, what would feel good? What number would make you breathe a little? And without hesitation, she goes, 10K a month would be amazing. I'd stop stressing. So I said, cool. So then we look at her menu and here's what the services looked like. A 2-hour service was $95. A 2.5-hour service was $150. Another 2-hour service was $75. Another 4-hour service was $175. 30-minute service was $25. And an hour service was $40. So that's kind of all over the place. And, you know, she's wondering why she's exhausted and has to have a second job. It's not a time management issue. It's a revenue per hour issue.
Correct.
So if you're doing 2-hour colors for under $100, and 4-hour colors for $175, you could fill every single slot on your calendar and still never touch 10K months. It would be absolutely
impossible. If you even just listen to the outline of the menu, first of all, there's no consistency in what she will be making and earning per hour at all. And on top of that, the hourly earning possibility based off of her menu is really, really low because her prices are really, really low, but her demand is incredibly high. So making decisions based off of feelings doesn't work in business, right? Like we need to make decisions based off of data and numbers. And those numbers, the math straight up, we can't even do girl math there. It just doesn't work.
No. So you're just scaling your underpricing. So all you're doing is working yourself into the ground. And
you're
this
burning
is somebody
yourself out.
who's not lazy. Like they work hard. They work crappy jobs. They love it. They just don't want to live like this forever. Like they're missing their kids' stuff. They're terrified to take days off. Like that is not a mindset problem. And manifestation is not going to fix that. Okay.
No.
That is the math screaming.
It's not a sustainable business model at all. There is no way to scale from that place. Like Nikki said, do the math there. She would have to work 80 hours a week.
She said 10K months. And I said, well, how do you suppose that might happen? And I read out her menu. I said, would that be possible with this menu and this timing?
No.
So I said, we have 2 things that need to happen. We need to fix your timing. Well, 2.5. We need to fix your timing. We need to fix your pricing, and we need to add high value services onto there, like add-ons. So if you're listening to this thinking that literally sounds like my life, this is exactly what Lab is for. Lab is where we fix your service times, your pricing, your menu, your schedule. So that fully booked actually means fully paid, not a fry daddy.
Not absolutely burning out and crashing out as well.
If you're already working your butt off and the numbers still don't reflect it, go apply for Lab through the link in the show notes.
We need to change that like right away.
You're just going to
There's no reason for you to keep working like that.
Yeah, you're just going to answer a few questions and then we see if you're a fit and we rebuild this thing properly. All right. Back to my salon owner, right? So here's what I told her and here's what I'm telling you. You're not the problem. Your structure is the problem. So this particular stylist's main constraints were underpriced services, bloated service times, and like no clear intentional path to 10K. So it's like having a goal without a path to get to that goal doesn't mean anything. So what we mapped out for her inside Lab was we're going to cut her color times down with a faster method. So like her 2-hour partial becomes at least an hour and a half, and a 2.5-hour service would become a 2-hour service, right? And then we raised prices to reflect demand and experience instead of like guilt and limited thoughts on, okay.
It's like emotional discounting essentially, or like projecting like, oh, because of the state of the world or because of X, Y, or Z, I need to keep undervaluing my services and my demand, you know?
Now we use the extra space created in her book, either for more of the right clients or to just give this person more time back or to stop the other job. The same woman, the same amount of talent, just literally a different math equation. Mm-hmm. And that is the part that most ambitious women don't want to look at because changing that math means you have to raise your prices, which is scary.
It is very scary and it's uncomfortable.
You have to say no, which feels scary. You have
You
to
have to
stop
potentially
hiding.
lose some clients, which
You
feels
have to,
scary.
you have to stop hiding behind I'm just so busy. So let's talk about you. I want you to mentally check a few boxes. Like, check these boxes. Are you booked 3 to 4 weeks out? Even 2. Are you working nights, weekends, days that you don't want to work, or maybe even a second job? Does missing one good Saturday basically wreck your entire month? Do you feel like you should be fine on paper, but money still feels tight? If yes, I don't want to take like a deep dive into your childhood and your trauma. I really don't. I just need you to do basic math. So ask yourself, I've been through some things too. It's okay.
That's for therapy.
Still going through some things. I have a therapist for that and medication. Highly recommend. How much did I make last year? Roughly how many hours a week do I work now? What does that come out to per hour? And I want you to be honest. Does that number match the amount of stress, responsibility, and emotional labor that you're carrying?
Let me break this down one more time for you. Take the number you made last year, divide it by how many weeks on average you worked last year. So that could be about, for most people out of the 52 weeks, maybe 48, 49, right? So take the number you made last year at the top, gross revenue in your business, divide it by 49 or 48 weeks, and then divide it by the hours that you worked per week on average. So that could be 30, that could be 20, that could be 40. You're going to get an hourly number that you made on average. And it's going to be very telling and very eye-opening, especially for those of you who really, really resonate with this episode and what Nikki's spoken about so far. You're going to see a number and you might be absolutely shocked. And what do we do when we see a number and we're shocked? We use it as data and we start to take action on making changes, because that can't be. I did this with someone. I also take calls with a lot of salon owners, and I did this number breakdown with someone who has been in the industry for 40 years, owning her own business for about 15, I believe. And we did this numberly breakdown and we recognized that last year she made about $35 per hour that she worked on average. And she's also hustling, working herself into the ground. And she was shocked. She thought for sure she was making more per hour than that, but the math just didn't math. We tried to break it down in multiple different ways. We looked at it from multiple angles, and she was making about $30 to $35 per hour on average. That's not a sustainable number for growth. With demand that high, it makes absolutely no sense.
Exactly. And like, if you're cringing even listening to this right now because you're like, oh crap, that's me. That's the same moment that this salon owner had on our call when she realized she was making like McDonald's money per hour, maybe less, with 20 years of experience, right? So there's only 3 levers that you can pull here, right? Price per visit, minutes per service, mix per client, add-ons, upgrades, maintenance, right? You don't need to work harder on your personality or your confidence. You need to adjust those levers. So for this particular person, it looked like raising her prices so that, well, it's going to look like this. We're working on it, but I'm not going to say we fixed it on one call. We definitely didn't. We've got some stuff to break through. But raising prices so that her best work isn't sold at clearance, speeding up her color process, and building a menu that encourages the right upgrades. That's really like the main levers. So for you, it might look more like stop charging 2015 prices in a 2026 economy. Stop letting 90-minute services sprawl into 2.5 hours, and stop selling the smallest possible thing when your client actually needs more.
Stop projecting your financial insecurity onto somebody else. Well, in the economy, I don't want to sound like I'm being needy or asking for more of their money. If they need that add-on, they need that bigger service, and you don't tell them, you're doing them a disservice. You're projecting financial insecurities onto somebody else. I know it's such a mindset hurdle for so many people, and it's so hard to get past.
The amount of stylists that come to me and call me greedy for charging the prices that I charge, both behind the chair and for working with me. The amount of stylists that shame me for that and say, if I were a good person, I wouldn't charge that, and claim like moral superiority. Guys, you raise your prices based on demand. Having a profitable business and thriving financially is quite literally the point. So you can say
why did you open your business? It's not a charity.
You could say you do this for the love of what you do. You love people. Okay. I love people too. And I also love me. And I also love my family. And I deserve the life that I've always wanted.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah,
you can be in it for the money and want to make good money and the freedom that money allows you and your family, and be great person who deeply cares about the people that you serve. Both of those things can coexist, and they should. But you wouldn't have gone into business if you didn't have money on your mind at all. I'm going to be 100% honest.
You would just do it charitably all day.
Right. Like reflect on that a little bit. If you think like, well, I don't want to be greedy. Well, why did you do this in the first
How about
place?
this? You want to actually help people? Make more money so that you can. Somebody in my life went through something really traumatic recently, and I was able to take a financial burden off of them because I can. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is not some like holy ground spiritual thing. It's structural. When you set up your life in a way that your cup is full, the more you can fill up other people's.
Think about it. Like if you're working yourself into the ground, you're burnt out, you're working a second job, you're delivering groceries, you're working at a bar outside of your 30 to 50 hour per week behind the chair schedule or whatever service you're in, where are you to give back to first yourself and second to anybody else, right? Like maybe you have dreams of organizing a nonprofit, or maybe you have dreams of volunteering your time at like a shelter or something like that. With what time, energy, and money? If you can barely afford to live the life that you are working so very hard to live, with what capacity on multiple levels? Like I said, energy, financial, like with what capacity are you volunteering your time? If you are to cut your timing down, to work more efficiently, to make the money that actually makes sense based on your demand, and free up your time because you don't have to do the side hustle. You don't have to double book yourself or work yourself into the ground. How much more energy and capacity and financial freedom do you have to actually do those things that you want to do that are kind for other people and volunteer your time? A lot more.
Exactly. So I could give in meaningful ways because I have access. And when you have access, you build a longer table, not a higher fence. Or I could just emotionally discount a bunch of people because I feel bad for them and never be able to do that and create impact where it actually matters. So get off your high horse.
Caring about yourself first is actually the kindest thing you can do for other people. When you are aligned with your yeses and you are moving forward in integrity with like who you are and what life you want to live and how you'd like to show up, and you are building this really aligned version of yourself, I promise you, you are going to show up better for other people. When you are burning yourself out into the ground because of some fairy tale story about how much of a good person you are and you have no money on the other side of that,
congratulations.
And you're also going to be frustrated. You're not going to be able to show up as your best self for anyone. It makes no sense.
Exactly. So if you saw yourself in this at all, or heard yourself in this rather,
can we help you? Please.
Fully booked, you're broke, you're quietly juggling a second job, side money hustle. I don't care. Hear me. Like, you're not bad with money. You're not lazy. You're not cut out for this. You're operating a business with broken math that's based on emotions rather than what's possible. And that's fixable. That's more fixable than anything. So if you want help, we look at your real numbers. We can hop on a call, rebuild your service structure, adjust your pricing and timing, and give you the tools so that your calendar and your bank account can actually like tell the same story. We just had somebody who was making maybe like $5,000 a month when they met us, and they just hit their first 5K week. They've only been with us a few months. So
iconic
moment. And we had another one of our stylists this week hit a 5K day
and a almost 10K week.
Chapstick. If you're done being the responsible one who's always exhausted, I do want you to apply for lab. The link is in the show notes and my bio. Fill it out. We'll look at where you're at.
Let's go. Let's do this.
That's it.
Time to make some changes.
If this hit, send it to a friend who you know is also
needs to hear it. Yeah.
And of course, subscribe and do all that shit too. We appreciate it. We do.
We do. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Slice Squad Spills. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback is going to help us improve and attracts more listeners to the show. Please share with your fellow time slicers. And hey, if you're ready to optimize your time and double your income, we've got you covered. Just fill out the brief form linked in the episode notes and let's connect. You can also stay updated with us on all social media platforms by following @Nikki Wildflower. Let's continue slicing our way to success.